Today I'm going to show you how to rotoscope in After Effects. So I bought these apples yesterday, and they're really good. They're like both sweet and tart at the same time. No, someone ought to make a candy that's like both sweet and tart. What do they call it? Anyway, rotoscoping. So what is rotoscoping, you might ask? Well, the most common definition for rotoscoping is the art of isolating your subject out of a scene so that you can put him, her, or it into another scene. Now you might say, well, just use a green screen. Well, that may not always be an option if your subject is in a space where a green screen isn't practical, or if your subject is doing a lot of moving around in a location where keeping him, her, or it in front of a green screen just isn't possible. Now, there's a number of ways to perform a rotoscope. Some are better than others. Today I'm going to show you a simple way to do it in After Effects. So the first thing you need to do is bring your footage into After Effects and then drag it down to your composition. Here I have a 10-second or so clip of my son standing in front of a wall outside. You'll then go up and select the Rotobrush tool and go down to your clip in your composition and double-click. This opens up your clip in its own layer view panel. With the Rotobrush tool, you'll paint around the inside edge of your subject as well as some of the inside. When you let go of the mouse button, After Effects will have drawn an outline around your subject, creating a mask. Now, After Effects does its best to guess at what all is part of your subject and what isn't, but it's not perfect. You'll likely need to make some minor adjustments. If there are parts that it missed, simply paint those parts as well. If it gets parts of the scene that are not part of your subject, hold Alt while painting those parts out and they'll be excluded from the mask. I also typically take a moment to drag the roto timeline to the end of my clip, or at least to the end of the portion of my clip that I know I'll need to use. From here, you'll just go through the frames making minor adjustments to your mask. At the top of your keyboard, you can use the 2 key to go forward a frame and the 1 key to go back a frame if you need to. Again, After Effects does its best to follow and track your subject, but as you go, it will likely lose the edge of your subject. So just repaint the parts of your subject that the mask is missing, or hold Alt while painting those parts that your mask picked up that don't need to be part of your mask. While rotoscoping, you'll need to kind of pick and choose your battles. What I mean by that is that in some cases it may not be reasonable to roto every single intricate detail. For example, in this case, my son has short hair. If you were rotoing someone with long curly hair, that might be an issue. You'll just have to roto the parts of the hair that are the thickest, through which you can't see the background behind the subject. Other challenges that you might encounter might be low contrast between your subject and the background. If parts of your subject blend in with parts of the background due to the colors being similar, it might make tracking difficult for After Effects. In this case here, occasionally my son's ears become hard to track because they're close in color to the wall behind him, but the rest of him seems to be easy to track. When you get to the end of your roto clip and you're happy with your roto, first you'll rejoice, and then you want to click the freeze button. This will cause After Effects to go through each frame and finalize the mask in that frame. This is a very important step. If you forget to do this and you go to render out the clip, your roto may come out wrong or glitchy because After Effects is basically processing everything while it's rendering. But if you freeze it, it locks down the mask. Once your roto's frozen, you can go back to your composition preview by clicking that tab at the top, and you can see that After Effects has created an animated mask around your subject. You can see some jagginess around my subject here. This is not necessarily the best rotoscoping method, but it is a simple one. You can actually play with the feathering of the edges of the rotoed layer to clean up some of that and make it look a little more natural. In future episodes, I can show you other methods of rotoscoping. There's really no right or wrong choice to how you do it. It all just comes down to your preference. Now you can do all kinds of things with this, like I can put my son in front of a field of flowers, which I'm sure he appreciates. You can also duplicate this layer, delete the rotoscope from the bottom layer, and use this to add effects to the subject in the top layer that affect only the subject and not anything else in the background on the bottom layer. This technique was used last year in our short film Monochrome, where we would have our black and white villain in a colored background or our colored hero in a black and white background. There's a number of other things you can do with rotoscoping. For example, back in the 1980s, there was a music video made to the hit song Take On Me that used rotoscoping to portray characters as animated comic book characters. I can't even imagine how painfully long it must have taken them to do that 3 decades ago. That's it for this episode. Remember that Saturday, October 29th is when Horror Fest 15 happens. That's in St. George, Utah at the Red Cliff Cinema, which is behind the mall, at 6 p.m. Also, remember to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, because we're going to be featuring some of the short films that will be shown at Horror Fest right here. But if you're in Southern Utah, then get your face to Horror Fest so you can experience it in person. Until next time, plan your shoot and shoot your plan. Bye now.